And this is one of the other metrics of a spiritual partnership. It's feeling the love so deeply that you feel safe enough to express that shadow that you have, that to express that, hey, I am codependent on your trait of grace, kindness, courage. Help me. What can we do? How can this container now be a beautiful, a pot plant or a bed of growth that we can now shift and change together? This goes back to spiritual partnerships and attracting in the love that you want. The first step will always be remembering your wholeness and completeness and value already. And then you take the step. Welcome, beautiful souls, to season 2 of the Cosmic Love Antenna with your host, Harrison Ma. I invite you on a mystical voyage from the intellect to the soul, delving deep into the mysteries of love's spiritual essence and its unfolding. This podcast celebrates the peeling back of heart layers, revealing profound lessons, interviews with spiritual seekers, and practices to open your heart to love's infinite wisdom. Good morning, evening, afternoon, beautiful beings. Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to another special rebroadcast episode of the podcast, where today I had the pleasure of being interviewed and being held in the space of another friend on another show. Today, it was with my divine friend, Jessica, on her Flip the Switch on Life podcast. Today, we talked about all things Soulmates Unveiled, embracing love, consciousness, and the journey to spiritual partnership. I hope this discussion really expands your heart. Make sure you stick around to the end to soak up all the juicy bits. And if you gain some knowledge, some insights, please go check out Jessica and her show and give her some love. Regardless, tune in, tap in, and enjoy the broadcast.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in this week. I'm so excited to have my guest here today. And we're going to be diving into all the things of love and consciousness and spiritual partnerships. So I'm really excited to introduce my good friend, Harrison Marr. Thank you for coming on the show today.
I'm so excited to be here, Jessica. I had the pleasure to have you on my show recently, and I was so captivated by your energy. So when you suggested that we do this, I was like, oh yeah, let's just keep it going. Let's keep it going.
Yes. Yeah. We've been having really great conversations. So I'm so excited, and I'd love for you to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about what you do and who you are.
I love it. So I am a spiritual love mentor and coach. And very simply, what that means is my passion and purpose in this world at the moment is to walk lost and awakening spiritual souls from their head back into their heart space, right, in all the ways. And it starts off with a lot of emotional healing and release and moving through trauma and cutting cords and cleansing all those things. And where it ends up taking us to is a deep realization of the consciousness of love that we actually are. So I work a lot in the emotional world, and I live in the spiritual awakening world as well.
I'm so excited to dive into this.
Yeah, me too.
Especially specifically because I'm navigating breakup. And I think right now my head is getting curious about diving deeper into spiritual partnerships. And I think when we're doing this work so much, we are so focused on ourselves, but we also have to recognize who we're attracting. And so something that you shared was that you want to help people get out of their head into their heart. And before I even get into that, I want to ask, what got you into this work?
Well, the short answer is me. I am the reason I got into this work, right? All of my challenges and pains and traumas and healings, right? That's the short answer. The long answer is my soul, and I try and say this as minus the ego as much as I can, but my soul has been around the block, is what we would say in Australia, has been around a few different incarnations. And for a very long time, what that means is I've had a lot of, innate knowing and wisdom flowing out of me very easily, right? When I have quote unquote normal conversations with people, I just can't be on the surface, and there's nothing wrong with being on the surface. And for the people that live in that world, that's divine. But for me, I'm the kind of man that wants to be having a conversation around what are your incarnations? What are your soul traits? What is your spiritual partnership in your life at the moment? What is the karma that you're currently moving in? So, to land here is I got into this work because I wanted to scratch my own itch and help other people do the same.
Were you navigating at all like love experiences or relationships, I should say, before you like found this more of a deeper purpose?
Yeah. So I'm just trying to think about how far to go back. In my teenage years, trigger warning for people tuning in, I was sexually abused. And a big reason for that was I suppressed a lot of my divine feminine characteristics as a man, right? I didn't see it as a manly trait, stories that I was playing to express sensitivity and emotionalities. And fast forward into my adolescence, I was abused. And a big part of that was because of that suppression. And then because of that abuse, I found myself in a lot of toxic relationships. You mentioned at the start of this chat, attracting in partners, right? I attracted in partners to help me see the shadows around that abuse that I wasn't integrating and healing. So I ended up seeing that and starting to do my own work around it.
And thank you so much for sharing your vulnerability here. I think that it's so powerful to witness men sharing their emotions or their vulnerabilities in their sexuality, in their sensuality, and wounding in their feminine. I think as women, as I speak as a woman and from my clients that I work with, it's sometimes I think I can speak for all of us at one point. It feels sometimes challenging to find the emotional depth and intelligence within the masculine. And it's just really beautiful to hear just how vulnerability can be our superpower and really allow our pain into purpose. And so something that's coming up for me right now is, asking you what is that first step when we start to recognize the relationships? Because it for you, for all of us, right, that like are living our purpose or some degree of our path, it always starts with us. And so, however, that's so valid. But what was your like pain to purpose moment for you to recognize that you had to start looking inward? Because I think a lot of us, both men and women here, find it challenging to look at ourselves. And when we talk about love, like we all want a life partner, we all want a soulmate. Like, how do we start to get through that like shamey, icky, like, oh, I don't want to look at that part of myself, but I know I need to?
Well, I think the thing that's coming through in this moment to share is, I think, first realizing that you don't need to. And what I mean by that is, I'll share a little bit more of my story. I grew up religious, and I grew up as a little boy that perceived my higher power as something outside of me, a man on a cloud, judging me, ticking boxes, right?
Yep.
So I had this unconscious belief that I needed to do all the things right. If not, I would be judged. If not, I would be sent to hell. If not, I would be, marked as evil. And unconsciously, what that created was a being that was striving to do all the things, or I wasn't valuable, I wasn't enough, I wasn't worthy. So coming back to your question, what's the first step we must take to sort of go deeper into ourselves, to whether we want a partnership or love or healing, is to take the pressure off ourselves, is to realize that we are given free will for a reason, right? We get to choose to either heal or not to heal. And whatever path we take, we're good, right? We're not, yes, there is an optimal path in which we expand, in which we balance karma, in which we bring in a beautiful partnership and we raise our consciousness. But if we do none of those things, we'll come back, we'll have another life and we'll go again. And there's no judgment in that.
So what about the people that are like, wait, I only have one life, or I want to focus on this part of my life. Yeah. And it's how do we, because I think that there is so much validity to taking the pressure off ourselves, because we put so much pressure on ourselves. And also, I think also when we talk about shadow work, or we talk about like integrating the parts of ourselves that we've disowned, right? We all have those shamey, resentful, maybe mistakes we've made. And some of us like want to just shove them way down. I know I have in my past too, but when I bring them to the surface and I reclaim them, it's like, I feel even more in my alignment. So how do we get to that place of like knowing like, okay, I see the power and I see the release of not changing, but what about the people that are like, I want my partner and I want it in this lifetime, but how do I start doing the work to call him or her in?
So for those people, these points are connected. And what I mean by this is, if you want to attract in a partner, let's use an example. Let's say I want to attract in a spiritual partner that is graceful, or a spiritual partner that is kind. There's two ways I can approach that. One, I can go out there and push and search and force and claim that person that has those characteristics. Or option two, I become those things that I want to see in the world and I attract that partner in. So I say that because we need to reverse engineer this. If I want a partner that is worthy, is valuable, is abundant, then I must be those characteristics first. Because if I'm not, because I want this so clear, I want this to be heard for everyone. If I'm not those characteristics that they are, that's codependency, right? Because I will continue to have them in my life thinking that they are giving me those things.
Oof. Can we just take a moment?
Yes. Yes.
If I am not embodying those qualities, then if I have that, I'm codependent on it because we're not whole.
Yeah.
Right. And so thinking about that in the way of like, you know, I've met a lot of friends. I've had a lot of clients where they've shared with me, like, I don't know what I did to deserve this person. He has everything that I need, and I don't understand why I have him. Because I've been in such crappy relationships. And it's like, at the time I'm like looking at, well, I've just attracted crappy relationship after crappy relationship. So how is it that you now have the perfect person? But then it's like, when you share that, it gives me this perspective of, there's a lot of women I've worked with that are just starting to unveil themselves, and they're unhappy now in their relationships, and they've just had it all. So could you dive a little bit deeper into that for us, please?
Explain the point again. So they had it all.
Well, the codependency aspect of it.
Yeah.
Because I think that there are a lot of, like, personally for me, whether it was a client or a friend, I've had women share with me that they've been in an awful relationship, and then they just attracted this like perfect human, so to speak, and they have it all. And they're like, I don't know how I found him, because I've just been in such a crappy relationship. And then I would compare it to myself, and I'm like, well, no, like for me, it was like bad person after bad person, so to speak. Right. I'm not trying to talk negatively about my partners, but I haven't found that. So I was like really interested to hear your perspective on the codependency aspect of the qualities that when we don't have them and we're seeking them and we find them, that we're creating the codependency there.
Yeah. So I was trying to find a quote from Deepak Chopra, but I can't find it here at the moment, so I will paraphrase it. But Deepak teaches that love doesn't come from a place of lack, right? It comes from a place of fullness. It comes from a place of wholeness. So if we're in any kind of dynamic, let's just expand it. Like, yes, we're talking about spiritual partnerships here, but let's speak about any friendship. And we ask ourselves, is that thing that person that I love about that person, is that in me? Let's be honest about it. Is that thing in me at the moment? Depending on how you answer that question, you'll find out where you are on that codependency scale, right? And there's no judgment here, right? This is not a you working out your codependent, then that relationship needs to end. No, this is an awareness game. This is a healing game. This is a shadow work game, right? This is maybe that partnership is toxic. Maybe there's abuse there. Maybe there's assault there. Then of course you need to cut that. But we have to give people the opportunity to evolve. We have to give people the opportunity to expand, to shift their consciousness. And this is one of the other metrics of a spiritual partnership. It's feeling the love so deeply that you feel safe enough to express that shadow that you have, that to express that, hey, I am codependent on your trait of grace, kindness, courage. Help me. What can we do? How can this container now be a beautiful, like a pot plant or a bed of growth that we can now shift and change together?
And I love that too, because when you're in an emotionally intelligent relationship, you can have those type of conversations, right? But I think for some of us listening, maybe we're not in super healthy relationships. And, when you were talking, I was reflecting back to, like love is not from a place of lack. And the amount, or women I've worked with throughout my career thus far, they've been in relationships where they are now starting to want to get divorced. And I'm like, is this my fault? At first, but I started to obviously look deeper and be like, no, they're just like reclaiming their true self. And this relationship wasn't fully aligned. And they started to recognize there were parts of themselves that weren't alive and weren't, they were so attached to the outcome. And they would always say, this person's amazing, this and that. But now I'm starting to really reconsider what I'm doing. And so I can even relate into a way with my relationship recently that just ended, where I felt like we weren't really aligned. And it was definitely a space of like qualities and looking at certain parts of like, where was I depending on the other person? So that makes a lot of sense for us to really look at where we attaching love from. And when we don't and they always say like opposites attract, but I feel like with qualities, you need to be on the same wavelength, right? Like you need to be on the same page.
I want to come back to that. I want to come back to that point, but I just want to speak very quickly to the divorce and the separation piece, because our paths are so similar in so many ways. I've also had clients that have gone through separation and had that same story playing in my mind of, am I a bad person for facilitating this separation? And I think this is a problem at large that we have as a society around, in a relationship, seeing the ending of that relationship as a bad thing, right? There's a term in the conscious community at the moment called conscious uncoupling, right? And it's the idea that divorce, relationship ending is not a negative thing. It's not a bad thing. It's not something that should be pushed into the corner and we should feel judgment around, right? Like anything, we're energy, right? And energy is neither destroyed or created. It's either it's transforming or moving into something else. So we can apply this to a relationship. If we bring conscious awareness to the fact that this partnership is no longer serving either one person or both persons' conscious expansion, then that it's okay to leave. It's okay to move on.
Yeah. And I love that point too, because again, I can relate that to myself where it was just, we both were not in a place where we could serve each other and be our best, fullest selves. And it was the first time I ever sat with myself and looked at somebody that I absolutely loved. And like, we both were like, this is the best thing for both of us, and walked away like amicably. Like, I've never been able to be at that place of awareness and consciousness. And I remember I would get comments of just like, how are you? Like, I hated my ex. I did this, I did that. And I'm like, girl, same girl. Like, this is a new level of myself where I'm actually looking at both parts and saying like consciously uncoupling. Yeah. Like I personally, I've never really heard of that term before, but when you explain it, it makes all the sense that like, we're both in a space where we're not aligning with our highest selves and we're just choosing to let that go, even though it's painful. So I think that for a lot of us, like, I've been having a lot of, people on the podcast talking about starting over and embracing more of this, like, challenging aspect of ourselves and learning how to still move through it with grace in this grieving process. But I love what you shared. And I love your perspection. I love your perspective on the uncoupling and thinking like it's such a negative thing, when truthfully, sometimes it can just be an empowering moment for you to like reclaim those parts of you, whether or not you get back with that person or you find like you're the right partner. But I think that's something worth to share. And Harrison, I'd love you to dive a little bit deeper into like consciousness with the soulmates aspect, because, you know, I was told that we have multiple soulmates in this lifetime.
Yeah. And I would agree with that. And I think that connects perfectly to this point that we were just speaking about the conscious uncoupling, right? So much of us have had religious indoctrination that we have to be married to one person for the rest of our lives. If not, we're again going to be persecuted.
Bad.
Yeah. All the things. And it's, you know, I have love for all of the souls tuning in that may be still in these belief systems, but cannot be further from the truth. And just with the work I've done with past lives and different incarnations, just in my own life, right? I've seen multiple soulmates, multiple soul family, right? We're all, without going too deep, but we're all connected at the highest level. And what that means from this relationship lens is that there will always be a resonance in which we can connect to a partner that is there to bring us something, right? Because that's what a soulmate is in many ways. It's a resonance of teaching. It's a resonance of consciousness expansion. And I think it's just removing all judgment, all negativity around how does this feel to me? Well, I'll make it simple. Test that belief, right? Ask yourself, this belief around me only having one soulmate, how does that feel in my body? Does that make me feel expansive? Does that make me feel blissful? Does that make me feel happy? Does that make me feel joyous? Or does it make me feel restricted? Does it make me feel tight? Do I have fear consciousness moving through me? That's a really good place to start.
I love that. Wow. Because I feel for a lot of us, we're like, well, my life partner and this and that. And like, I mean, we can even go down the avenue of polyamory, right? Because that's a whole different thing. And so, but I think ultimately, like talking about monogamy, even like having multiple soulmates, I think we look at that, and please add on or correct me if I'm wrong, but my perception of soulmates is that everyone that we date is a soulmate because they're here teaching us a lesson, whether or not it's our life partner or someone in our life for a short period of time. But like, and I mean long-term dating too. Well, I don't know, maybe that's not even accurate as well. Like maybe it is almost everyone that we have a connection with and kind of have a dance with, if you will, because we're navigating our own inner landscapes. And, you know, I think, and I feel like it's so valid to say that our relationships are actually really like the epicenter of our growth and of our connection with ourselves, our spirituality. I mean, I don't think I've grown more from anything else other than relationships, really.
Yeah.
Of course, like, trauma and stuff, but I think relationships are probably like the second runner up of that.
I would say I would say it's the thing. I would say trauma is second to relationships, because let me go into that a little bit, because it connects to what you're saying about soulmates. And I prescribe to your belief of, all of these deeper, meaningful connections being a soul connection, soul learning, soulmate in some way. But let's ask ourselves why, right? Why is that? And I'll go all the way to the deepness, right? And this is what I talk about in my book and the work that I do from a spiritual lens. Your deepest source is one of love, right? And I don't mean the emotion of love or the feeling of love. I mean the consciousness of love itself. If we were to describe the trait of presence, oneness, God, it is love. Love is the trait of it. So if we understand that, okay, so if I'm love, you're love, why are we here? What are we doing? What's the meaning of this? And I don't pretend to be the person that knows the meaning of life. But what I do prescribe to is that we all came from a one source. And if that one source is love, why did that one source need to make different expressions? Why did it need to make Harrison? Why did it need to make Jessica? Well, when I sit with that question, it's so that love can experience itself, right? So love can interact in relation with another aspect of love. So the love that is Harrison can be in relation with the love that is Jessica, and learn all the different things that happen in between that relation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's such a beautiful way to put it. And I think for our listeners that are, really thinking about that, it's like the vibration of love,
Yes.
like the level of consciousness of love is like we've all felt like unconditional love at some point, I hope. And maybe that was just for a glimpse. But I think that when we are operating at that standpoint and we find somebody that is some sort of attraction to us, like a lot of the times we're like, I don't know why I'm attracted to this person, but I am. And it's like, I think that's like our consciousness is connecting in that way. And we're about to do a dance, whether that is a 6-month dance or a year dance or a forever dance. And so I think when we can kind of think about our relationships in that way, it's almost, again, I think this is like a higher way of thinking about it, like a conscious, emotionally intelligent way of thinking about it. But I think that's where like you can become conscious in that potential that if needed, like uncoupling, right? To get to a place of like, I see you for you, you see me for me, but I see that this is not aligning with me and it's not aligning with you, because we wouldn't be here and having these conversations or arguments or this and that and the other. And then of course the opposite can happen, right? Where we feel like we're very soul connected. Like it's like this, when you're connected on a soul level, I think you just feel that. Like I have yet to experience that, but I felt that with like my friends, where I'm like, girl, we just get each other like a whole, like, I don't know what it is about you, but I'm so deeply attracted to our energies and we flow so easy, like, and I think those are soulmates in friendships. Yeah.
You're speaking about, you said the word, I just want to pull out one word, feeling, right? You asked me at the start of this chat, what I do in this world, right? And I said, I walk people from the head to the heart. One of the biggest things that opens on that journey is your ability to feel. And I want to underline this here, because most of us are not doing this. Most of us are staying in the thinking, if you want to call it the thinking aspect of consciousness, right? We're just thinking and logically breaking down everything that's happening. And that's beautiful. We need to do that. But we also need to do is feel. We need to feel into any given situation. And you're very astute when you say you've been connecting to it in the friendships. But I want to give you some love, Jessica. It's only a matter of time until that happens in romantic partnerships, because the way that I describe the heart is a flower, as a lotus flower. And most of us have that flower closed, right?
Yeah.
But the more time we spend in that heart, whether it be in friendships or romantic connections or family, the petals of the heart begin to open, right? They begin to open up, and they open up through different aspects of feeling: compassion, grace, forgiveness, acceptance, all these things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that's just such a beautiful way to put it. And my last thing on soulmates is that I don't know why this is coming up, but I feel like a listener would be asking, like, okay, this is great, but like, how do I know when I found my soulmate? And and also, do we know how many soulmates we have
Yeah,
in this lifetime?
I love all these practical, these audience questions, because this tests me. I love it. So as soon as we think, as soon as we, and I don't want to say get lost, but as soon as we become overcome by needing to know, needing to prescribe knowing to the situation, that is our first instance that we need to release that. So let me explain it from another angle. If I have someone that comes into my life, I'm going to use you, Jessica, as an example, and you make me feel a certain way. You make me feel expansive. You make me feel joyous. You make me feel, this energy moving through me. But then the mind comes in and asks me those same questions of, is this a soulmate? Is this a deeper connection? What's going on? Is this number 4 or number 6 or number 8? It automatically takes you out of the feeling. It automatically takes you out of the consciousness that you were just in. So the reason I say that is the consciousness of love that's in your heart that connects to soulmates, it's connected to your source, your divinity that's inside of you.
Mm-hmm.
And that source contains infinitely more knowledge and awareness than your mind will ever conceive. So what I'm getting at here, just to land this, when the mind comes in to break down a spiritual conversation around soulmates, as the example here, it is usually in the surrendering of the question itself we get an answer, right? In the letting go of needing to know, the answer comes in. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I think that we can relate to this in some way where maybe we're really craving to get a new job, for example, because we dislike our new one, and we end up landing that job or getting that offer. And then while that, like, something we wanted so bad is here, and now we're actually like, well, now I have it. Do I actually want it? Like same concept and thought process there. Yeah. I think we can all relate to a time where we thought we really wanted something, we get it, and we realize, I don't really want that anymore.
Yeah.
Why did I think I wanted it? Yeah.
It's ego, right? It's the little self thinking it's these things, right? It's the little Harrison. When I say little, I say the human that isn't the vast, expansive spiritual being, right? The little human that thinks it's that relationship, the little human that thinks it's that job, the little human that thinks that we're just speaking about your beautiful retreat, right? Little human that thinks that it's that retreat. And the reason that when you get there and it doesn't give you the thing that you thought it would give you, is you were never that thing. That was never you, right? And this goes back to spiritual partnerships and attracting in the love that you want. The first step will always be remembering your wholeness and completeness and value already. And then you take the step.
I think that's something to really point out here too, is that, like, when I talk to my clients too, and, they're being challenged with being alone or being challenged with, desiring a partner. And, I always say to them that, we have to do the work to reparent ourselves and to make sure that we feel whole. And sometimes they look at me like, what the fuck are you saying? And I think that you just described it so beautifully, because we need to find our beauty first. And we also, again, we can kind of compare from our last experiences. since we're on the topic of relationships, on like our last relationships, and ask ourselves, like, what part of me was so codependent on X? And it's like, oh, maybe it was codependency on my partner, maybe financially supporting me. And then it's, you look at yourself, well, do I feel like I can support me? What is my relationship with money? Oh, it's non-existent. Oh, well, there you go. You were filling that void instead of, and we're not here saying you need to be perfect, because there's no such thing as that. But the qualities that you need in a partner, you have to start pouring into yourself, because thinking about, if love is attracted from love and not lack, then you're actually going to be receiving the thing that you actually want. If you start doing that reparenting or inner work on yourself, the shadow work, like you shared within yourself, to get to a place where you feel I am good in who I am, and you're just complimenting me, versus like when people say like, oh, what do they say? It's blinking on me right now. You complete me.
Yeah.
You complete me. And sometimes I'm like, oh, don't say that, because truthfully, it should be, I am whole. You're just adding on and helping me expand.
I'm trying to get up another quote. I'm not doing good with these today, but I gave you when we had our last chat, I gave you a beautiful book to read that I would definitely recommend everyone tuning in to read. And it's called Spiritual Partnerships by Gary Zukov. And he defines a spiritual partnership as gardeners in adjoining plots, right? So basically what you're saying here, right? This beautiful dynamic that we're looking for, how I would describe it, is two perfectly imperfect spiritual beings having a human experience, holding hands together and stepping forward together, right? Realizing that they still have things that are growing and seeding inside of them, but they take responsibility for those things, right? They don't project, they don't expect, they don't attach, but they take responsibility, but they continue to hold hands together and cooperate.
I love that. I love that definition of spiritual partnerships. And so my last question to you is that, for anyone listening here and they're like, okay, like I'm ready to do the work, where do I start with calling in their life partner or their soulmate? And we don't know next or future, we don't know, but we'll in present tense.
Yeah. Well, I'll give three steps. Okay. Because there's usually more than one thing to be done, right? We only ever need to do one thing in the moment. But if we have this little basket of options, then we can always bring awareness, right? So the first is, you said reparenting, right? And I want to add an extra word there. Reparenting what? Reparenting our inner child, right? Our relationship shadows, our relationship, if you want to call them challenges or dysfunctions, 99% of them began in childhood, right? So it's doing work to reparent, but reparent that beautiful little boy or little girl that didn't have that need met growing up, meeting it ourselves, and then seeing our relationship manifest from there, right? The second is, we need a daily silence practice, right? And for me, it looks like meditation, breath work, connecting to nature. But whatever it is for you, you need to have a moment in your day where you go within. Because if you don't, you will continue to externalize the self. You'll continue to be looking outside of you for the thing to fill that hole, right? And as we've spoken about today, that's the challenge. And then step 3 is reconnecting in that silence to your place of power. Okay. And by that, I mean God, divine, source, your higher self, Allah, Gaia, whatever you want to call it. But you need to have a practice of silence that reacquaints you with that power, because it is that power that will remind you of the wholeness, of the fullness, of the worthiness that you will want to see in the person that you're attracting in.
Wow.
How'd it go?
A lot for us to like marinate on. Oof, I love that. I have nothing else to add to that. I think other than just like embodying that, right? And just
Yeah.
doing that work, allowing it to transmute and giving it time, giving it space and not chasing, but just being. And I
Yeah.
think when you can get to that place of feeling confident in yourself to just be, like the right person is going to walk in your life at the right time and compliment you. Not to say you won't ever have disagreements, but you'll just know, you'll
Yeah.
just feel it's different in that regard. So I love that so much. And Harrison, I know that you mentioned a few times that you wrote a book. Like,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Can you tell us more like what that is about?
I would love to, but let me say one more thing, because you stimulated something very important with being and attracting in. I just want to make sure people hear this, that your current physical location and whether you have access to people or not is not a determining factor of whether you bring in a partner. So what I'm saying by that is, I'll just give me as an example. I live in a small town in Australia, in a little home by myself, with I won't say no community, but very minus community. Yet, in the last 6 months, I've attracted in partnerships that have been beyond profound, and I'm not special, right? What I'm tapping into is we all can tap into. So I share that point because a lot of people out there, they feel like they need to go to the place, they need to move to the big city, they need to have that big spiritual community, otherwise that partner won't come.
Well, yeah. And a lot of people say too, like, oh, I'm not going to meet anybody in X or where I'm at. Yeah.
And it's not true, right? I want to pop that myth, right? It will come, but you need to believe it, right? The moment you believe it not so is the moment that becomes reality. So believe it first and then it shifts.
We're going to table that because otherwise we will go for another.
I want to be,
it's right there.
I want to be respectful of your time.
Maybe that can be part 2, because I think that's something that I'm sure a lot of us are like, wait, what are you talking about? Because I hear that so often. And I mean, just to wrap that in a bow, your beliefs are so much more powerful. So if you feel like you will not find your partner, you will not find your partner. If you feel that you are broke, universe is going to give you more evidence that you're broke. Same concept applies here. So all to say, without going down that rabbit hole in the moment, is think about what you actually want. And if you want to find your life partner in your city or wherever you are, you will attract that. But you have to let go of the outcome. And you also have to let go of the belief that it won't be possible no matter where you are. Because I think that's just such a beautiful example of yourself to share. So thank you so much for just wrapping that love conversation just up so perfectly for everyone.
My pleasure, my friend. To answer your original question, so I don't segue again. So my book is named after my podcast and my coaching. It's Your Cosmic Love Antenna. Define, embody, and emit your unique frequency of love. And it's very much connected to everything we've been talking about today. It really sets the intention to help you reconnect and reawaken that frequency of love that you are, so you can attract a partnership, so you can manifest that opportunity, so you can do the things in your life that you deserve to step into. And I really break it down in a very practical way. I talk about a lot of actions and tools and share my experiences. And if people are interested, you can look it up on Amazon or go to the website, cosmicloveantenna.com.
Oof, I will definitely add that into the show notes. And then my last couple of questions is, 1, where can we connect with you? Where do you hang out the most? And 2, do you have anything that we can get involved in? Of course, we're all going to buy this book, but is there anything else that you're like new projects or anything that you're working on that we can get involved with?
So, well, Jessica, I just want to say thank you for you and thank you for this space. And
thank you.
I've felt so activated this whole time. So as someone that creates a space for other people, I really appreciate when someone can create the rocket ship needed to blast off into all the places. So I appreciate you. For people interested, I basically hang out on all the social media platforms at Harrison Mar spelled MEAGHER. So Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Threads I've been exploring, which has been really interesting. And in terms of new things going on, there are some things coming. I have an offer at the moment for your beautiful listeners. If they tune into my coaching, go to my website and they sign up for a discovery call, I'll throw in an extra 10 days to any coaching container for free that they want to dive deeper into with me to explore their love consciousness and stay up to date. I have some things percolating, co-creations with beautiful souls that I've met recently.
Ooh, we're really excited, and we're excited to connect with you. Everyone go connect with Harrison on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, all the places.
All the things.
Yes, all the things. Everything will be linked in the show notes. And again, Harrison, thank you so much for this like really uplifting, empowering conversation on spiritual love partnerships, ultimately. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for listening to the Cosmic Love Antenna with me, your host, Harrison. If you gained value or this episode hit your heart, please remember to share this out with a friend, a family member, or a lover. You can also leave your love over on Apple reviews and Spotify star feedback, and this helps me spread my frequency to more souls in need. Finally, if you want to connect with me deeper, want to reach out, interested in coaching, please follow me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn at Harrison Mar spelled MEAGHER. Sending you so much love.
Welcome to Ringside with Ray and Prince. My name is Ray Leonard Jr.
Oh, is that the shit? No, that's just my dad.
My name is Prince Daniels Jr.
Daniels again with a big home touchdown.
On this show, we come to humanize
Athletes, entertainers, business executives. We're going to see what makes them tick.
Tuesdays, 10 a.m. Pacific time on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and wherever you get your podcasts.
We'll see you there. Peace and power.
Electricast.